Ghana, a modern West African nation. Yet its name comes from a legendary empire that existed centuries before its borders. This vibrant country, nestled along the Gulf of Guinea, is a beacon of stability and democracy in the region. When you think of Ghana today, you might picture bustling markets in Accra, the rich aroma of cocoa farms, or the intricate patterns of kente cloth. The nation is renowned for its welcoming people, its lively music, and its significant contributions to global culture. Yet beneath this modern identity lies a name that deliberately reaches back into the mists of time, connecting the present-day republic to a powerful and prestigious past that unfolded far from its current geographical location. This connection was not an accident but a conscious choice, a powerful statement made at a pivotal moment in African history. Modern Ghana shines brightly on the world stage, known for its abundant natural resources, particularly gold and cocoa, which have shaped its economy for generations. The country's cultural output is equally impressive, from the high-life music that fills the airwaves to the compelling narratives of its writers and filmmakers. Its history is deeply intertwined with the transatlantic slave trade, with poignant reminders like the Cape Coast and Elmina castles standing as solemn witnesses to a painful past. Yet, it is also a nation of immense resilience and forward-looking optimism. This duality, a deep respect for history combined with a dynamic push toward the future, is perfectly encapsulated in its very name, a name that honors a legacy of African greatness and sovereignty. The decision to adopt the name Ghana was a profound act of historical reclamation. It links the nation not to its colonial-era identity as the Gold Coast, but to a glorious chapter in West Africa's pre-colonial history. This name carries with it the weight of an ancient empire, one celebrated for its immense wealth, sophisticated organization, and formidable power. By choosing this name, the founders of modern Ghana were not just christening a new country, they were reviving a Pan-African ideal. They were signaling to the world that Africa had a history of powerful, self-governing states long before the arrival of European colonizers, and that this new nation was built on that very foundation of indigenous strength and pride. The story of why it is called Ghana is therefore more than a simple lesson in etymology. It is a journey into the heart of African identity and the continent's long struggle for self-determination. It reveals how a name can serve as a bridge, spanning centuries to connect a people with their ancestral heritage. It's a narrative about memory, honor, and the enduring power of a legacy that refused to be forgotten. Understanding this connection allows us to appreciate modern Ghana on a much deeper level, recognizing it not just as a country, but as the custodian of an ancient African spirit, a spirit of resilience, royalty, and profound historical significance. The ancient Ghana Empire, which flourished approximately between the 6th and 13th centuries, was a true titan of its time. It is crucial to understand that this empire was not located within the borders of modern-day Ghana. Instead, its heartland was situated hundreds of miles to the northwest, in what is now southeastern Mauritania and western Mali. This geographical distinction is fundamental to understanding the symbolic nature of the name's adoption. The empire was strategically positioned at the crossroads of the trans-Saharan trade routes which connected the salt mines of the Sahara Desert to the gold fields of West Africa. This prime location allowed it to dominate the lucrative trade in gold, salt, and other precious commodities, making it fabulously wealthy and influential. The empire was established by the Soninke people, a Manda-speaking group known for their exceptional organizational skills and military prowess. They built a sophisticated state with a centralized government, a powerful army, and a complex system of taxation. The emperor, known as the Ghana, controlled the flow of gold, which was the lifeblood of the kingdom. He maintained a monopoly over the gold nuggets, allowing only gold dust to be traded freely. This clever policy ensured that the state's treasury remained full and that the value of gold remained high. The empire's capital, believed to be Kumbisale, was a sprawling metropolis with distinct districts for traders, artisans, and the royal court, showcasing its cosmopolitan nature. The power of the Ghana Empire was not just economic, it was also military. The emperor could reportedly field an army of 200,000 soldiers, including 40,000 archers, a formidable force that secured its borders and enforced its dominance over vassal states. These subject kingdoms were required to pay annual tribute, often in the form of crops, livestock, and of course gold. This system of governance allowed the empire to control a vast territory and a diverse population. The emperor was seen as a divine figure, a protector of his people and the ultimate source of justice. His court was said to be a place of incredible splendor, filled with gold-adorned attendants, fine horses, and elaborate ceremonies that impressed foreign visitors. The legacy of this great empire resonated through West African oral traditions for centuries after its decline. Griots, the traditional storytellers and historians, preserved the epics of its warrior kings and the tales of its immense wealth. These stories painted a picture of a golden age, a time of African strength and prosperity. It was this powerful memory, passed down through generations, that captured the imagination of the 20th century anti-colonial leaders. They saw in the Ghana Empire a potent symbol of what Africa had been and what it could be again. A continent of proud, independent, and self-sufficient civilizations. The empire's history provided a powerful counter-narrative to the colonial myth of a so-called dark continent without history or achievement. The name Ghana, which the empire became known by, actually originates from the Soninke language, and its meaning is both simple and profound. It translates to warrior king. This was in fact the title given to the rulers of the Soninke kingdom of Ouagadougou, which formed the core of the empire. Arab traders and geographers who traveled to the region or heard accounts of it began to refer to the entire empire by the title of its king. So when they spoke of the land of Ghana, they were speaking of the land ruled by the warrior king. This linguistic quirk meant that the ruler's title became synonymous with the realm itself, a testament to the absolute power and central importance of the monarch. The title Warrior King was not merely ceremonial, it accurately reflected the foundations of the empire's power. The king's authority rested on his ability to lead his armies, defend the state, and expand its influence through military might. The Soninke were renowned for their martial skills, and the king was their ultimate commander. His role was to protect the trade routes from bandits, ensuring the safe passage of caravans carrying salt, gold, copper, and textiles. By maintaining peace and security within his domain, the Ghana ensured that commerce could flourish, which in turn filled the royal coffers. The name therefore encapsulates the very essence of the empire's political and military structure. Over time, the name Ghana completely eclipsed the kingdom's original name, Ouagadougou. In the historical record, particularly in the writings of Arab scholars, the empire is almost exclusively referred to as Ghana. This demonstrates the immense impact that the warrior king had on the consciousness of the outside world. The title became a brand, a name that evoked images of immense wealth, formidable military strength, and a highly organized African state. It was a name that commanded respect across the vast expanse of the Sahara. The adoption of this title as the empire's name highlights the deep impression that its rulers left on all who encountered them, either directly or through second-hand accounts. This powerful meaning, warrior king, was not lost on the leaders of the African independence movement centuries later. For them, the title symbolized more than just ancient military power. It represented sovereignty, leadership, and the spirit of a people who fiercely defended their autonomy. In the context of the fight against colonialism, the idea of a warrior king was a rallying cry, a reminder of Africa's long history of strong indigenous leadership. It was a name that embodied the courage and determination required to forge a new nation out of the ashes of colonial rule. The choice of the name Ghana was, therefore, a deliberate invocation of this spirit of defiant and proud leadership. Much of what we know today about the grandeur of the ancient Ghana Empire actually comes from the detailed records of Arab and Berber traders and scholars who visited or documented the region from the 8th century onwards. These writers, such as al-Bakri, al-Masudi, and Ibn Hawqal, were fascinated by the empire and, left behind these vivid descriptions of its wealth, governance, and culture. Their chronicles provide an invaluable outside perspective, really helping to corroborate the oral histories of the Soninke people. They wrote of an empire whose ruler was described as the richest king on the face of the earth because of his treasures and stocks of gold. This reputation was built on the empire's control over the Bambuk goldfields, which were at the time one of the primary sources of gold for North Africa and Europe during the Middle Ages. The 11th century Andalusian geographer al-Bakri, in his Book of Roads and Kingdoms, provided one of the most famous and detailed accounts. Even though he never actually visited the empire himself, he compiled his work from the testimonies of merchants who had, Al-Bakri described the court of the Ghana in breathtaking detail, noting that the king would hold audiences in a domed pavilion, surrounded by 10 horses adorned with gold-embroidered materials. The king himself would be decorated in golden jewelry and a headdress, with his guard dogs wearing collars of gold and silver. Al-Bakri also wrote of the king's monopoly on gold nuggets, stating that they were the exclusive property of the monarch, while the common people were permitted to trade only in gold dust. These Arab accounts did not just focus on the empire's material wealth, they also commented on its system of justice and its well-organized administration. Al-Bakri described how the king would personally preside over legal disputes, riding through the city on horseback to hear the grievances of his subjects and ensure that justice was served. This image of a just and accessible ruler contributed to the empire's reputation for stability and order, which honestly was essential for maintaining the confidence of foreign traders. The chronicles also noted the presence of a large Muslim community of traders in a separate settlement near the royal capital, indicating a degree of religious tolerance and a cosmopolitan atmosphere that facilitated international commerce. The writings of these Arab historians were instrumental in cementing the legend of the Ghana Empire in the wider world. Their accounts, which circulated throughout the Islamic world and eventually reached Europe, painted a picture of a West African civilization that was as sophisticated and powerful as any other of its time. This documented history provided concrete evidence that directly challenged the later colonial narratives of an undeveloped and uncivilized Africa. When the time came for the Gold Coast to choose a new name, these historical records offered irrefutable proof of a glorious African past, making the name Ghana a fitting and powerful choice for a nation stepping onto the world stage. Like all great empires, the Ghana Empire eventually faced a period of decline. Its downfall was not, the result of a single event, but rather a combination of factors that unfolded over several decades in the 11th and 12th centuries. One of the most significant pressures came from the Almoravids, a puritanical Islamic dynasty from North Africa. The Almoravids launched a series of campaigns across the Sahara, seeking to control the lucrative trade routes and spread their interpretation of Islam. In 1076 they are said to have captured the empire's capital, Kumbi Saleh, a blow from which the empire never fully recovered. While Ghana eventually regained its independence, the conflict severely disrupted its trade networks and weakened the central authority of the warrior king. Internal strife and environmental challenges also played a crucial role in the empire's fragmentation. The vassal states that had once paid tribute to the Ghana began to assert their independence, breaking away and challenging the empire's dominance. The Soso people, under the leadership of Sumanguru Kante, rose to power and briefly controlled the territory of the old empire. Furthermore, years of drought and the overexploitation of the land made agriculture increasingly difficult, straining the resources of a once prosperous kingdom. The trans-Saharan trade routes began to shift eastward, bypassing the heartland of the old empire and favoring new rising powers, further diminishing Ghana's economic influence. The vacuum left by the decline of Ghana was soon filled by new ambitious states. The most significant of these was the Mali Empire, founded by the legendary Sundiata Keita in the early 13th century. Sundiata, the Lion King, united the Mandinka peoples and defeated the Soso ruler Sumanguru at the Battle of Kirina around 1235. The Mali Empire would go on to absorb what was left of the Ghana Empire and grow to become even larger and wealthier, controlling not only the old goldfields, but new ones as well. The rise of Mali marked a new chapter in West African history, building on the foundations laid by Ghana, but ultimately eclipsing its predecessor in scale and fame, especially under the reign of Mansa Musa. Although the Ghana Empire had ceased to exist as a political entity by the 13th century, its legacy endured. The memory of its power, wealth and organization was preserved in the oral traditions of the griots and the written records of Arab scholars. It became a legendary lost golden age, a symbol of indigenous African achievement. This powerful memory lay dormant for centuries, a story waiting to be rediscovered. When the winds of change began to blow across Africa in the 20th century, the leaders of the independence movements looked back into history for inspiration, and the glorious echo of the Ghana Empire provided exactly what they were looking for, a name that stood for power, pride, and self-rule. On March 6, 1957, the British colony of the Gold Coast made history by becoming the first sub-Saharan African nation to gain independence from European rule. On this momentous day, the country shed its colonial name, a name that was purely descriptive of the resource that European traders had sought there for centuries. In its place, it adopted the name of the ancient empire, Ghana. This act was a powerful and deliberate statement of intent. It was a rejection of the colonial past and a profound embrace of a pre-colonial African identity. The choice signified that this new nation was not a creation of Europe, but a rebirth of Africa's own historic greatness and sovereignty. The principal architect of this symbolic rebirth was Kwame Nkrumah, the charismatic leader of the independence movement and the nation's first prime minister and president. Nkrumah was a fervent Pan-Africanist who believed in the unity and strength of the entire African continent. He saw the independence of the Gold Coast as the first step toward the total liberation of Africa from colonial rule. For Nkrumah, the name Ghana was more than just a historical reference. It was a source of inspiration and a symbol for his broader vision. He wanted to connect the struggles of the present with a legacy of past glory, reminding his people and the world that powerful African states had flourished long before Europeans set foot on the continent. By linking the new nation to the ancient empire, Nkrumah and his contemporaries were making a powerful claim. They were asserting that the spirit of the warrior king lived on in the modern anti-colonial struggle. They were drawing a direct line from the organized, wealthy, and independent empire of the past to the modern, self-governing nation of the future. This choice resonated deeply across Africa, inspiring other nascent independence movements to look to their own pre-colonial histories for names and symbols of national identity. It was a radical act of cultural and historical reclamation, setting a precedent that would be followed by other newly independent African nations, such as the adoption of the name Zimbabwe, after the great stone enclosure of that ancient kingdom. The geographical distance between modern Ghana and the ancient empire was irrelevant to the symbolic power of the name. The modern Ghanaian people are not direct descendants of the Soninke of the old empire. The connection was ideological, not ethnographic. It was about claiming a shared African heritage of greatness. The name Ghana was chosen to represent the entire continent's capacity for self-governance and civilization. It was a Pan-African gesture, a tribute paid by a new nation to an ancient one, forging a bond of pride and inspiration that transcended time and geography. This act powerfully declared that the future of Africa would be built upon a renewed appreciation of its own magnificent past. Today, the name Ghana is a source of immense national pride for its people. It serves as a constant reminder that their national identity is rooted not in the 400 years of European contact and colonial rule, but in a much deeper, more ancient African legacy. This connection to the powerful Ghana Empire provides a sense of historical depth and prestige. It instills in Ghanaians a confidence that their nation is built on a foundation of strength, sovereignty, and civilization that predates modern history. This pride is visible in the country's national symbols, in its educational curriculum, and in the way Ghanaians present themselves to the world as heirs to a grand and noble past. The story of Ghana's name is a powerful illustration of how a single word can bridge the past and the present. It demonstrates how newly independent nations can use history as a tool for forging a modern identity. By reaching back across centuries to claim the name of a legendary empire, Ghana managed to craft a national narrative that was both forward-looking and deeply rooted in African soil. This act of naming was an act of empowerment, transforming a colonial territory known for its resources into a sovereign nation defined by its heritage. The name itself became a declaration of independence, a symbol of Africa's reawakening and its determination to define its own destiny. Ultimately, the name Ghana is a testament to the enduring power of history and memory. It shows that legacies can lie dormant for centuries, only to be revived at critical moments to inspire future generations. The story of the warrior king and his golden empire provided the perfect narrative for a nation breaking free from foreign domination. It was a story of African agency, wealth, and power, a direct refutation of the colonial ideology that had sought to erase or diminish Africa's past achievements. In this way, the name Ghana is not just a label for a country, it is an ongoing celebration of African history and a beacon of hope for the continent's future. If this story gave you new insight, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. In a world where names are often taken for granted, the story of Ghana reminds us that they can carry the weight of empires and the dreams of nations. They connect us to who we were and inspire us to become who we aspire to be. The choice of a name is a choice of a story, and Ghana chose a magnificent one. This deliberate connection between an ancient past and a modern present is a profound lesson in how identity is constructed, claimed, and cherished, echoing across the entire African continent and beyond. Which country's name should we uncover next? Drop your suggestion below.